Hello, this is Doc Jean Gruder, Doctor of Physical Therapy, Certified Dementia Practitioner. I am very excited to present to you our very special guest, Coach K. These are for people. I've been a review lecturer for 8-9 years in the Philippines, and I have met many students who failed NPTE so many times, and it's very heartbreaking. So this is one of your options if you really want to pass the NPTE. And Coach K here will introduce himself, his company, and for you to be well informed about choices that you can make for a better future here in the US, so that finally you can practice. After all those years of studying, you can finally get your license and practice as physical therapist. So good day, Coach K.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I appreciate this.
I appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, so I really want to talk to you and get your background about your company and how can we help our foreign trained therapists or new graduate of physical therapy here in the US. So let's start off with introduce yourself and your company.
Absolutely. So again, thank you all for having me on. The NPTE and standardized test has a very special place in my heart. And the reason why it does is because I've struggled so hard with standardized exams. It's not even something that's funny at this point, because there's just been so much struggle through middle school and high school with standardized exams. And standardized exams are one of the things here in the United States that will keep you from going to a big university for college, right? And there's a lot of colleges that won't even look at your application if you don't perform well on standardized exams. And so when I was coming up through high school, I could not get good scores on those exams. And so while all my friends were going to the big name colleges and moving on with their lives, I was kind of stuck, not able to stay with that group of friends, and so started to have a lot of acceptance issues. And, even though I did get into college eventually, I still continue to struggle with standardized exams. And it's really been that thing that I absolutely dreaded every single day of college. And even when I got into PT school and heard about this thing called the NPTE, it was just like, oh my gosh, there's another exam I have to take. Is this going to be the one that I fail again and then not be able to actually practice, do my dream job? And so leading up to the NPTE, I had failed 13 standardized exams. We actually get a document as you're taking all these exams, and it usually shows you where you compare to the rest of the people in the United States who've taken it, right? And so on the bottom of my sheet, it would always have the little bell curve and all that, and I would be in the bottom 10% of all testers in the nation. And so, this happened for the 13 standardized exams leading up to the NPTE. So when I heard that there was this exam, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be another exam that I'm going to fail. And I'm going to be $150,000 in student loan debt. How am I going to be able to tell my family that this didn't work out? And you start to have all those fears of, well, what if this doesn't work out? Am I going to be a disappointment to everybody? And so I was really stuck at that point. And so, the NPTE was the first time I figured out that I'm a non-traditional student. I didn't even know what that was. And non-traditional means that you don't necessarily go into standardized exams knowing everything to do. Right? You're not necessarily good at standardized exams. You're good at maybe talking the stuff out to someone, but when it comes down to a written exam, you just don't perform as well as some of the other students.
Right.
And so that's more of a non-traditional student, because now they need to go and do non-traditional methods to prepare. So that's exactly what I did for the NPTE. I figured out it was non-traditional, And I was like, all right, how can I do this differently? So I did a lot of different stuff that I'm sure we'll get into later, but I went into the NPTE. It was actually my first attempt, and I passed it with a perfect score. Perfect score on the freaking NPTE, which was mind-blowing.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So it's a good thing you were not investigated because you had a perfect score.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I don't think I've heard of anyone having a perfect score in NPTE. I mean,
yeah.
I took my exam first paper too. I'm glad with my score, but I was not perfect, in any sense of, but I'm just glad because I was not able to sleep the night before the NPTE. I was so, nervous about it. The anxiety got into me. So after the NPTE, I was just like, oh, I want to go back to bed. But I know what you mean. And I just recently actually made a video I made the computation for foreign trained physical therapists of how much it is the physical therapy license here in the United States, but accounting the airfare, the visa application, the hotel accommodation, so we can relate to what you were saying before, the pressure and the disappointment, because for foreign trained therapists, although most of us don't have the student loans, but once you graduated, you are the breadwinner of the family. And then, so you're the breadwinner, you're taking care of yourself and your family. And then at the same time, you're trying to get to your dreams of applying here to the US. So even though we don't have the student loan on our shoulders, we have our family on our shoulders, and then trying to, fulfill our dreams. So it's a different pressure, but pressure on us still,
exactly.
To pass. Okay,
right.
So all right, so this is the heart of the PT hustle, guys. So as Coach Kay said, he came. The background of him is like failing after failing after failing the standardized test. So he can relate to, especially to those who have failed the NPTE before. So no judgment there whatsoever. You are in good hands. Okay, so what can they expect when they enroll to your course?
Absolutely. So, with all the background that I went through, it really gave me a passion for helping students who've gone through everything that I've gone through, all the pain and the fear of failing and having, letting down your family and all these different things, right? Or the fear of that. And so I developed a company called the PT Hustle, and the core of that company is to help the non-traditional students who struggle with standardized tests. Whether you're foreign trained or not, that's really what we focus on, right? And so we have, different programs within our core, of the company. And again, the goal there is to really figure out what is the student's major issues that they're presenting to us with, and what is the best tools to help fix those problems. So it's very differential based, trying to figure out that problem and give the student exactly what they need.
So if I am a student, so I will answer some questions that you're gonna send me, so that you're analyzing my strength and weakness and go from there. Is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly. Yeah. So we do that on two different sides. We do that on the front side before the student ever is in the PT Hustle programs.
Okay.
We have ways to bring students in over the phone, talk to them about where they're currently at, ask them questions so we can figure out if the PT Hustle is even a good fit for them.
Okay.
And then once they get inside the program, that's when we really go deep and dissect, okay, what is the specific problems and what do they need to do to fix it?
Gotcha. Okay. And also, if I'm not mistaken, when we get the result of, because it's been such a long time for me, when we get the result of NPTE, we have the breakdown of the grade, right? Of specific area. So that also can be a determining factor on what to focus on for a student, if they have a very low grade on specific area. So it's like a customized based on my need. It's not like one for all kind of done deal. What your approach is, you will customize it based on a specific need of the student.
Yeah, and that's 100% correct. It's very customized. It's very personalized for each individual student, because when we look at it, every student is different. Some students that know information better in certain areas than other people, that sort of thing. But here's the deal. You were talking about getting like a feedback report or that breakdown of the systems in the areas. And although that's a great thing to look at, it's still kind of vague though, because it says, oh, you're not so good at musculoskeletal. You got a 40% on that. But it's like, well, how do I improve that though? What am I actually not good at? And that's the reason why it's very important to get down to, okay, what do we need to change in order to get this thing up to a 70 and 80%?
Gotcha. Okay. And also, being brought up in the Philippines, and the kind of teaching and the kind of approach when it comes to national physical therapy exam in our country, it's very bookish. It's either you know it or not. Sorry if you didn't read this book, because it's word for word, for a specific question. It's less analytical, and if it is analytical, it came from a reviewer, most of the time. So I speak for maybe, most foreign trained therapists. We are less equipped with analytical questions, and most of the questions in the NPTE are analytical, and it's like there's a question underneath a question. If you don't get the answer to this question here, you won't be able to analyze and arrive to the correct conclusion. So that is one thing that you're saying, that you can dissect if the student is really having a hard time on that specific kind of questioning in the NPTE.
Just to add on to that point, because I know a lot of people who are watching this right now, they're like, yes, that's exactly the problem that I'm having, or that's exactly what I went through. And I would say in the United States, as I was going up through my training, nobody really taught me how to study, right? And so a lot of my stuff, when I would read it, it was based upon memorization, right? Now, there were certain tests in PT school that they challenged you on that analytical level, so you had to change how you were looking at things.
Right.
So that's the reason why I think it's important for programs now that are preparing people for the NPTE to not just teach the content, but to actually teach people how to study the content.
Right. And also because it will play a role once you are a clinician. So when you develop that analytical, critical thinking, once you become a clinician, you can also use that. It's not just the memorization. Oh, you know what tibial nerve is and how the muscles act, but you can apply it when it is weak, how the gait pattern is affected. So it's very important also clinically. When, for example, I enroll in your course, is there a specific duration for the NPTE review? Okay, is it in the Philippines, we have mostly an in-person. Before the pandemic, we have the in-person, we go to a review center, we attend the in-person teaching, lecturing. Usually it's around 3 months for that. How about in your course online?
Yeah, so our program is set up to be a guarantee until you pass. And so there's students that come to us and they're like, hey, I don't have the NPTE for a year. I just want to get started early. And so they stay in our program getting the assistance that they need until they take the exam. So it doesn't necessarily have to be 8 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. No, since every student is tailored, there's some students in our program that's not taking it for 12 months. And so we tailor out the plan specifically for that amount of time. But one of the other things is, a question I get often, and they say, well, that's good and all that this is tailored and it could be any time, but it's how do I know how much time I'm going to need? And that's where we come into play, where we're sitting down with people and showing them exactly what they need to be doing and what goals they need to hit in order for them to be ready for the NPTE. So we can tell you how long it's going to take.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And, because some of them are also working or have families. So that's very good that, you can have it, because if I am a student, it is, I think, to have a structure is better than not to have a structure, because some of the programs are self-paced, but they won't tell you how much, how many hours you need in a day. Okay, so if I enroll, do I get like practice exams, access to that practice exam so I can practice answering questions?
Yeah, so we're this is so amazing that you asked that question. We're super excited because in less than a month from now, we're actually coming out with our full pack of our own practice exams with our own system. So it's going to be able to track your progress and also give you all those details that you need to create your plan. So it's the first time that this is coming out, and we're less than a month away from the launch. So yes.
Okay, so that will be cool because at least you can get to feel the pacing, because it's tedious to have, to be sitting for hours, mentally draining. So having a practice exam and, thinking and answering and moving on, that will be a good preparation for the NPTE. That's awesome. So once you release that, let me know so we can also let our viewers know about it. Okay, yeah. So a lot of people, of course, if they don't know your company, they are hesitant to trust you with their money, the hard-earned money. So most people will ask, what sets you apart from other online courses? Because there are many online courses and some of them might be cheaper. Why should they enroll to PT Hustle?
Right, that's a great question. So first off, I would say, my background is very important for a lot of people because I come from a place of also struggling with standardized exams. And so I know the fear of failing, the disappointing your family, that all these things that go into it. So a lot of times, let me just give you something really quick. Back in undergrad, one of the things I actually wanted to do was I wanted to become a surgeon. I had this idea in my mind, like I want to become a surgeon. And there was a program, a review course that I took. It was for more traditional students that, you just go to a class, they teach you the stuff and you're supposed to know it, right? So I remember the guy being up, at the front of the class teaching everything, but this was someone who knew the answers to everything, was always good at tests. And so when you struggled, they didn't have like the empathy or the ability to say like, oh, I see where you're coming from. Wait, let's dive into this a little deeper. Like they didn't have that piece. And I think it's very important that when you have, whether it's a coach, a professor, that you invest in somebody that truly understands where you're coming from so that they can meet you where you're at right now. And I think that's so important. And that's why I really built the PT Hustle, to meet students who are non-traditional, who struggle with standardized tests, meet them where they're at, and then build them up from there.
Oh, so what I'm hearing is like, you get to be heard, you get, someone's listening from where you're coming from the level that you're coming from, because that is very inert among, us people, that we want to be heard in the level that we will be understood. Okay, so I get that, and that is very, very good. Okay, so many Filipinos are very into how many percentage of passers do you have? They are into the numbers because they want to know, it's assurance maybe that, oh, I want to be in that number of passing rate. So that is a common question and a common, like a marketing strategy back in the Philippines. So it's, if you don't mind answering, how many percentage of passers do you have in a specific category?
Yeah, very good question. So This is a multi-part question. Number one, if you're like a first-time taker or maybe a second-time taker, we're in the 90th percentile or higher. Now, when you get into the third or the fourth, it starts to trickle down into the 60s and 70s. And the reason why is there's other factors that affect a score, not just a person's knowledge. There's fear of failing that affects it, test anxiety. And so those things can affect those numbers. What I think is really important, though, is for everybody to understand that it doesn't really matter what the program's pass rate is, because I have plenty of students that go to PT schools where their pass rate is not good for their PT program, but yet the student passes with a very good score, right? So it doesn't have a lot to do with the pass rate of whatever program. I would say, I don't know about that. I think it has a lot to do with whether the program can match where you're at, show you exactly what your problems are, and then show you everything that you need to do to make sure, guarantee that you pass the exam. I think that that's the most important.
Yeah, I think that is very good too, because, and in the traditional review center in the Philippines, there's nothing like that. So we enroll in the review center, but we are not assessed individually. We go through the motion of the review, and they take the examinations that they give us, and based on that examination, we'll assess ourselves whether we're good or not to go to take the exam. So it's not individualized. It's more on like a group approach, class approach, so that is something very foreign to me, which is very good, because at least if I am a person, and I like what you said, test anxiety. I don't think I heard that before, but that exactly is a lot of people are having, especially when you fail the exam. Right. So after you fail and you have this fear, one of the remedy for that is to have assurance and someone to guide you that you're in good hands. We'll walk you through, we'll journey you through until you pass. So I think that is very, very, very good to have, for someone who have failed the exam before. Okay.
Can I make one extra point there? I think that this is important for the people listening right now. I've had multiple students, hundreds of students in the past that have come and they failed the NPTE twice, 3 times, 4 times. And they also, when they fail, they get a report. They buy it. It's about $100. It's called a feedback tool, right? And if you scroll towards the bottom of it, it actually tells you what is your percentage of passing on your next attempt. A lot of the students that come to me, that little chart says that they have a 20% chance. Some of them, it says a 5% chance of passing on the next attempt. Like, what does that do to your insides when you see something like that, right? So I'll be the first to tell you that I've had hundreds of students who have very low percentages like that, but yet they go on to pass the NPTE on the next attempt. And it goes to show you that it's not about you being a statistic or somebody's pass rate or what FSBPT says about you. It's really about you figuring out what are your true weaknesses and how to get to the final destination as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. And it takes an expert to do that, because it's hard to figure it out on your own, because to say the least, you are confused, because you don't know what makes you fail and what do you have to do to really pass it. And, the shame of, my friend passed it. How come I cannot pass it? And when we are in school, I'm better than him or her, but they passed it and I didn't. So with all the shame and the guilt and the fear, it's really a multi-factor. I would say I agree with you, really. It's not about just the knowledge of not passing it. It's the anxiety and all these factors with the trauma, and disappointing the family and everyone else as well. Okay, you said it very well. Okay, so any additional information that you want to give to our viewers? How do they enroll? Where would they find you? How they can contact you, your website, and everything else?
Absolutely. So we have different products, products that are free. We have paid products as well. I suggest, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I'm really interested in the PT Hustle, that you come over and visit us at www.pthustle.com. You can go there, you can look up everything that we have to offer. But there is an opportunity for you to get on the phone with one of my team members, and we'll help guide you to what we believe is the best, whether we can help you or not. Okay. So you go right to the pthustle.com and get that level of service. Now, we also have a free Facebook group. I'm in there every week helping students, absolutely free. So if you have Facebook, you can go to www.nptegroup.com. It'll take you right to our group. Get yourself in there, and it's awesome. It's a party in there every week, but we're also really serious about helping students like you.
Gotcha. Okay, so guys, I hope that this is helpful for all of you. If you have any other questions, clarifications, comments, suggestions, just leave your comment down below. If it is a question for Coach K, I will make sure that he will get it. And any question for me, just send me a message and I will also try to get it. Coach K, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the heart of the PT Hustle. We talked before, and I really feel your passion, from one lecture to another. It's really, it's heartwarming for me that you're doing this because of your past. They say from mess to message, so from our struggles, then you're now being an anchor for somebody who are also struggling, and so you're guiding them. So that's why I also created the JustUpright channel for foreign trained therapists, because I struggled for 9 years before coming here to the US, and the complex processes involved in applications foreign trained therapists. So really, I truly admire your passion for teaching, and I think your strategy is a very unique and personalized. And if I am a student or a PT graduate and very fearful of taking the NPTE again, I would really highly consider getting in touch with you, because I can feel your heart, and I can feel that I can trust you to carry me through the NPTE. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you guys for watching, and stay blessed. Thank you, Coach K.
Thank you.